Ange Postecoglou has been appointed the next manager of Tottenham Hotspur. After missing out on European football in the year to come, Spurs are about to kick off a summer rebuild. After a remarkable season that saw 30 Premier League goals, the future of Harry Kane is in question. While I believe it is Spurs' wish to retain the player, they might not be able to hold off interest from clubs like Bayern and Manchester United. With the German club still in need of a number 9, Kane could be the answer for them, especially in the Champions League. I don't think a 100 million transfer would be too unlikely, and after the 2021 transfer saga, maybe there is some benefit to moving on to other striker options. But it'll definitely be an interesting year ahead as far as board expectations go, looking to get back into Champions League football and trying to win some silverware. It's going to be one of their best chances at domestic competitions, no longer having to worry about European football. But transfers have already kicked off at Spurs. I think their biggest addition this summer could be James Maddison's arrival from Leicester City. Joining on just a 40 million fee, Maddison offers some goal scoring from the midfield, which is integral to the system that Postecoglou plans to use at Spurs. Since he started consistently appearing in the Premier League in 2018, there's just been one season where Maddison hasn't had double-digit goal and assist contribution. We had to pay slightly more to make this transfer happen in career mode as Maddison joins on a 50 million fee. It's wild to think that at just 25 years old, his rating could go even higher than 84 overall. We're also going to be putting him through a position change to center attacking mid, which will help his overall progression. The second confirmed summer transfer for Spurs is Guglielmo Vicario. The Serie A shot stopper for Empoli arrived on a 20 million fee, and he will serve as a Hugo Lloris replacement for future seasons. He's known to be a great shot stopper and likes to start the attack from the back, which is one of the key attributes for a modern goalkeeper. Still some question marks with his handling, but hopefully he can progress as he starts to make appearances in the Premier League. This is a signing where we were able to replicate the transfer fee, joining on a 20 million deal. The thing I like about Spurs summer transfers is that they're signing players that haven't even yet hit their prime. Many point to Spurs' defense as one of the big reasons why they lacked quality in the Premier League last year. So it'll be crucial for them to sign one, if not two defenders. We'll start with Edmond Tapsoba, who is linked with several Premier League clubs. He's comfortable on the ball, and while he can do the job in most defensive areas, I think he's mostly going to be signed for his ability to move the ball forward, which for an attacking-minded team like Postecoglou's Spurs, he's the perfect player. There have been reports that a 25 million bid has already been submitted for Tapsoba, but we ultimately settled on a 35 million transfer, about 10 million more than what Tapsoba is valued at, but likely closer to what a transfer fee would look like. If the Tapsoba deal were to fall through, or if Spurs want to even add another center back option and a left-footed one at that, Mickey van de Ven would be the perfect addition. He became a regular part of the Wolfsburg team in the 22-23 season. There were some injury concerns in the year prior, so that might be a point that is brought up when this transfer is being considered, but I think he still has a lot of room to grow. About 10 million less to finalize the Van de Ven transfer fee as he joins for 25 million, showing great potential for the future and giving us squad rotation at center back. Whenever a manager joins a new club, it's not uncommon for them to bring a player from their previous team, and I felt like Jota from Celtic would be the right profile player for Postecoglou to bring from Celtic. He recently completed a 30 million transfer fee to join Etihad Club in Saudi Arabia. And as a young player, I don't think it's a bad transfer because he could always return to a top 5 league in future seasons. But the Benfica Youth Academy player had a breakout year at Celtic with 21 goal contribution in the Scottish Premiership last season. It'll be a 20 million deal to bring Jota to Spurs, and there is a high chance that he could become a regular starter for us at left wing, even if his rating is still lacking relative to the rest of the team. But another area that Spurs need to address is all the players that are returning to the club from loan. I think some of them will play a part in Spurs' future, others will be transfer listed and make moves away. And Ndombele is a good example of that, someone with a lot of expectations when he joined Spurs, hasn't quite lived up to it, so hopefully he can find a good future at another club. Eric Dyer, being a Spurs player for a long time now, will likely be transitioning away as he hasn't featured as regularly. And Harry Winks seems to be off to Leicester City, which may have played a role in Maddison joining the club. Sanchez will also be on his way out as he joins Real Sociedad in this save. But the big question mark is where Hugo Lloris will go to. He has been a Spurs player for such a long time, and I thought it was pretty cool that a former Spurs manager, Jose Mourinho, decided to pay his release clause as he joined up with Roma. But as far as the youth academy system goes, we start with a 5-star scout, and we'll be adding 2 more 5-star scouts to round out our youth academy. And for our homegrown talent, we've got Stanley Wilson. He's a center attacking mid with 77 to 94 potential, already at a 75 rating. He'll be staying at center attacking mid as he tries to grow in his overall over the course of the season. soon. But our first match of this Premier League campaign will be up against Brighton. A lot of changes to the Spurs team over the summer, new players and a new formation. A few position changes along the way, a +2 to Maddison's overall up to 86. Perisic also will be featuring for us to start off with at left wing. He saw a +2 in his overall with that position change from left wing back. With Kane's departure, I slotted Son centrally as our striker/center forward. There wasn't a change in his overall as he shifts centrally from left wing. But just to start, we wanted lots of goals as we pick up a 3-2 victory against Brighton. And Kulusevski already securing the Player of the Month award for September, as it was a good month for us as far as Premier League results go. With only 8 appearances, he has 10 goals and 1 assist, and hopefully a sign of things to come. While we're on the topic of players who are at the club on loan, I figured we might as well finalize this deal for Longley, who is technically here on loan from Barcelona. We had to pay a 15 million transfer fee to finalize the deal from Xavi's side. And heading into January 2023, we'll check on results. Top of the Premier League in a very close battle with us, Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool. The squad's chemistry is growing though, and player overalls are going up. Højbjerg slotting into the center defensive mid role. Destiny Udogie also taking over as our new left back. He is growing rapidly in his overall. And the same can be said about Jota. He's up to an 82 rating at the left wing spot. Still about 90 million left in our transfer budget, and I'm going to be using the remainder of our funds to finalize the Kulusevski deal from Juventus. This has already been confirmed, so we're just replicating that transfer. And the same for Pedro Porro at right back. 2 players for the future and hopefully 2 longtime Spurs talents. Stanley Wilson is also ready for some first team action as we approach the end of March. Not too much growth in his rating, but at a 76 overall, he's still an exceptional talent at just 18 years old. But the pressure here at Spurs is going to build to our second to last Premier League match day, an opportunity for us to seal the league title. It's a fixture at home against an Aston Villa side that has had a fantastic turn of fortune under Unai Emery. It's been since the 1960s that Spurs were English champions, and they haven't won a trophy since the 2007-8 season, where they were English League Cup winners. Hopefully we can change that here and end Spurs trophy drought. It's Heung-min Son that carries the ball forward, finding Jota, the new signing from Ange Postecoglou, opening up the scoring, and that is exactly the sort of start we wanted. Bentancur will be finding Jota down this left side, and this is what I mean about having wingers that can both score and create. Just some good passing between our front three. Eventually, the ball is going to fall to Son, and we've got a 2-0 halftime lead. We're also keeping an eye on results. Manchester City, one of the teams close to us in the table, are currently losing to Luton Town. But with the minutes coming to a close, we're going to see one more bit of action. It's a long-range effort from Heung-min Son. That 5-star weak foot definitely playing a role in that goal as we get a third, and we will be seeing some trophy celebrations. Son, the new captain here at Tottenham, and also our new striker, will be lifting this trophy for Spurs. He's just the player I wanted being involved in this action. I think if Kane were to depart, then Son is going to play an increasingly important role in their attack. This would be a dream start for Postecoglou. Let me know in the comments how you predict Spurs will finish the next Premier League season. But here's a look at the final Premier League standings. It's United, City, and Liverpool that round out the top 4 spots, and relegation zone will be including Bournemouth, Luton Town, and Brentford. Leicester City and Leeds equal on points and earning automatic promotion spots, Watford winning the championship playoffs. Liverpool defeating Manchester United in the FA Cup on penalties, and the Carabao Cup going to Manchester City as they get the win against Brighton. Eintracht Frankfurt kicking off the season with a victory against Real Madrid in the UEFA Super Cup. As far as the Champions League goes, it's Milan to defeat Liverpool, but I was more concerned with how Bayern were doing with now Harry Kane at the number 9. They lost in the quarterfinals to the Champions League winners and won the Bundesliga, so I wouldn't count this as a massively successful season. A big year for Eintracht Frankfurt as they defeated Borussia Dortmund in the Europa League, and in the Champions League, Villarreal got the win against Real Sociedad. It didn't take Son much adjusting at the center forward spot. 25 goals from 42 appearances. It made him the top goal scorer in the Premier League, ahead of 2 Manchester United players. He also led the club in assists, 9 from 42, ranking in the top 5 for this category in the Premier League. However, a lot of our success came from Vicario, our new goalkeeper signing. winning the Golden Glove Award. We'll get an update on Stanley Wilson growing a little bit more up to a 77 overall, and Udoji up +7 to an 84 rating. But we've got some newly promoted Youth Academy talents to talk about. Joseph Cameron, a 68 rated right winger from the United States. With 81 to 94 potential, he'll add to the list of top talents from the US that have played for Spurs. Clint Dempsey, probably the most recent that comes to mind. Matthew Sheridan is a 62 rated striker from Ireland. He's got 80 to 94 potential. And Gavin White, a 62 rated goalkeeper from Wales with 84 to 94 potential. A great year for Ange at the helm at Spurs, going up in his manager rating to an 87. Premier League winners and now back in the Champions League. It'll be a fun year ahead at Spurs with some added challenges. For board expectations, a critical priority for us to sign a player with a different nationality from that of the club. And for domestic success, we're looking to win it all: the Premier League, the FA Cup, and also the Champions League. We have a transfer budget just short of 200 million, but that number is going to go up with an offer coming in for Richarlison. It took quite a few matches before he got his first Premier League goal with Spurs, and he also has mentioned it being a dream to one day play for Real Madrid, so we'll make it happen as he departs for 50 million. That means we'll see some big arrivals in Season 2, starting with a winger that I think would be perfect for Postecoglou and his new time at Spurs. There have been Premier League links with Moussa Diaby. Arsenal and Newcastle both interested, as the PSG Youth Academy player has thrived in the Bundesliga the last few seasons, similar to that of Christopher Nkunku, who's also heading to the Premier League at Chelsea. It'll be a big transfer fee, just shy of 100 million. Diaby arriving for 95 million, about 20 million more than his valuation. We'll also be putting him through a position change as he features as a left winger for us. With Richarlison leaving, we need a new backup striker, and Rasmus Højlund could be a good addition. He's really burst onto the scene the last year with 14 Serie A goals as a 20-year-old. I think a few more years at Atalanta would do well for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is Premier League interest coming in. Sure, there is some risk with signing a young striker like this, but there's also a lot of upside as a future potential replacement for Heung-min Son. Only 15 million to finalize this deal. I don't see that ever happening, considering Højlund's valuation is approximately 50 million, but still, a player with great potential and someone that should get some minutes for us. Our next featured talent is Marcus Edwards, who is actually a former Youth Academy player at Spurs before departing to Portugal. Initially starting for Vitória Guimarães, he has made the transfer to Sporting and just had his best season to date. I wouldn't be surprised if he got the national team call-up with Gareth Southgate's England squad, but ultimately I think him leaving Spurs was a good decision for both parties. We've seen other English talents thrive by moving to leagues abroad, and there's nothing stopping them from eventually returning. 50 million is quite steep for a player that will likely play a squad rotation role, but we've got the funds to make this happen, and it's a good storyline transfer moving forward. I also wanted to add a young backup goalkeeper, and Moises Ramirez is not someone that I've signed yet in FIFA 23. With 4 appearances for the Ecuador national team, he's got great distribution and reflexes similar to our current #1 Vicario. And speaking of Ecuador, they've got so many young promising footballers, including Plata, Hincapié, Caicedo, and Sarmiento. So I think this is a national team you might want to look out for in future World Cups. We'll complete the Ramirez signing on a 10 million fee. Not a bad amount considering he's valued at 11 million, so he likely had his contract running out. It's a new competition to kick off our season, the FA Community Shield against FA Cup winners Liverpool, and we do secure a 1-0 victory. Another trophy for Spurs just a few months after winning the Premier League, but it's Chelsea and a London derby to begin our Premier League season. Here's our starting 11. Just one change to the first team as Diaby takes over at left wing, but quite a few additions to the substitutes. And it's another winning clean sheet as we defeat Chelsea 2-0. But for our Champions League group, we've got Frankfurt, Lyon, and Salzburg. Kolomuani, probably a striker on the move here in the future for a big transfer fee as he's up to an 85 overall. Alexander Lacazette, the former Arsenal man, at an 83 rating. And Benjamin Sesko will stick with the theme of strikers as he's at a 77 overall. But this is what we want heading into the January transfer window, a December Manager of the Month award, that coming as a result of 4 wins and 3 draws from 7 Premier League fixtures. Some of those coming against very decent opponents. But checking out our results in January 2024, we are second in the league standings, 5 points behind Manchester City, but topping our Champions League group, which is a big priority for us in Season 2. Adding to that, we're in the semifinals of the Carabao Cup and still in the running for the FA Cup. Outside of the red card for Longley, not too many concerns in our starting 11, so we'll start with that Carabao Cup action, losing the first leg 2-1 to Liverpool and drawing the second leg, so getting knocked out of that competition, but defeating Liverpool in the FA Cup to advance. Our round of 16 fixture in the Champions League will be against Feyenoord, who have David Hanko, a center back that is also linked to several Premier League clubs. Defensively, they had some issues though, as we put 5 goals past them in the first leg and 2 goals in the second leg, winning 7-0 on aggregate into the quarterfinals against Real Madrid and Richarlison. They also signed another Premier League talent with Jack Grealish, who's at a 84 overall. Just a 1-1 draw in the first leg, but we get 3 goals in the second leg to advance 4-2 on aggregate into the semifinals against a big Premier League opponent with Manchester City. Of course, the player to feature here is Erling Haaland at a 93 rating, and it was Haaland and Højlund to score in the first leg to keep the match at 1-1. The second leg also had a 1-1 scoreline, which forced extra time, where we were able to keep things level, ultimately winning the fixture courtesy of penalties. That means our opponent for the Champions League final will be Atleti, but we've got a cup fixture before that. We've made it all the way to the FA Cup final, where we'll play Wolves and defeating them 3-2 courtesy of a 78th minute goal from Kulusevski. Another trophy added to our collection as Heung-min Son continues to lead the charge here at Spurs. We're not in the best of form heading into this Champions League final. Consecutive draws, and that came as a result of some wavering Premier League form, still finishing top 4, which is an important achievement. City, of course, keeping their spot at the top, and for the relegation zone, it's Sheffield United, Leicester, and Watford to see the drop to the Championship. Speaking of which, Brentford and Bournemouth both earning promotion, along with Southampton, who win the playoffs. Recapping all competitions, we start the season with a victory in the FA Community Shield, rebounding in the FA Cup to reach the final and defeating Wolves. The Carabao Cup goes to Manchester City, who got the win against Liverpool. And in the UEFA Super Cup, Eintracht Frankfurt go back-to-back, defeating Milan 3-1. Porto were Europa League winners against PSG, and Arsenal winning the Conference League against PSV. A huge uptick in goals for Heung-min Son. I think part of that has to do with more competitions, but 47 from 63 is some great numbers there. He had the second most goals in the Premier League, only behind Haaland. Son also leading us in assists, 18 from 63, equal in the assist mark with Phil Foden from Manchester City. Not as good of a season defensively, as Vicario had the 5th most clean sheets in the league. Not bad, but not as good as last year. We'll get a loan update on a couple of talents. Matthew Sheridan up +3 to a 65 overall. Cameron up +5 to a 73 overall, while on loan at River Plate. Gavin White going up +7 to a 69 rating. What a loan spell for Stanley Wilson over at Barcelona, going up +2 to a 79 overall. This is going to be a very competitive Champions League final, with us having some experience playing against Joao Felix. I wanted to keep the philosophy of Ange Postecoglou's attacking mindset in mind when it comes to tactics, and that is exactly how we start. Pressing high up the pitch and looking to win back possession, just working the ball from side to side. It was Oblak who made 2 very good saves to start the match, but here in the 18th minute, we're finally going to break through this Atleti defense. Son playing through Kulusevski on his left will find the back of the net. He has arguably been the player of this rebuild, and I think he could play an increasingly important role for Spurs, either out on the right, playing as a winger, or maybe even at that center attacking mid spot that I think Maddison will also occupy. Son nearly gave us a second goal in the 84th minute, but it was called back for offside. We're into the final 2 minutes of regulation, and unfortunately, it is Joao Felix, the man who was on loan at Chelsea, to find the equalizer, making it 1-1. And that's going to be forcing extra time. We do manage a breakthrough though. Maddison playing through Son, who's got enough pace to get by these Atleti players, has a few supporting teammates in the box, eventually over to Diaby, who finds Maddison, and another one of the new additions here at Spurs is going to give us the go-ahead goal in the 100th minute. That ended up being the winner for us. The trophy drought is well and truly over at Spurs, and we're arguably winning more trophies than any other Premier League team at this point in the rebuild. So after losing in the 2019 Champions League final, Spurs will finally add this achievement to their club history.